And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFL round review. We have hit the bye period. We are through 13 rounds of footy. We just got through round 13. And there's one word that I really want to describe, but I'm going to let my co-host say this because he said it pre-mic. I completely agree with him, and I cannot wait. Joining me, somebody that I talked with for my supporter series a couple of years ago, a huge East Perth supporter, but also a huge footy head, somebody that I've wanted to talk with on the show. I have Nick, my East Perth mega supporter. Nick, it is great to see you again, sir.
Sonny, good to see you again. It was definitely a round of footy. It happened. It was a festival over here. We had four big games of footy in Melbourne, five if you count the one in Geelong. Yeah, it was definitely a big time over here, but some games were
Go ahead and say
better
it. Go ahead and
better.
say it. What type of footy
Some
did we
were.
have?
Well, I don't know what word you're looking for. What are you trying to feed out of me? Come on.
The shit footy.
Yeah, okay. It was some shit footy.
It was shit round of footy. It was a shit round of
No,
footy
it
when
was
it
a
comes
good
to
round of
LG.
footy with some shit games of footy. And unfortunately, yours was probably caught in the crossfire of the shit.
In the long, like I said pre-Mike, we will
Yeah,
discuss it. I will take the four
yeah,
point. I will take the 4 points happily. Was it the greatest game of footy to watch? Absolutely not. But let's jump into it. Let's break
yeah.
this down really quickly. We've kind of said it. Thoughts on this round? Because as you said, there were some brilliant games. There were some shit games. There were some games that gave us some head scratching. So thoughts on this round on round 13?
Yeah, I mean, again, I do want to put it in a bit of a Victorian perspective. I enjoyed the fact that we had the four games of footy, and it felt like everyone was here enjoying footy. Obviously Thursday night we had the Bulldogs and Hawthorn coming through Saturday with the Sydney Richmond game, and then Sunday and Monday. So like you've got marquee games every day, and everyone was enjoying the footy. And I don't think you get that environment pretty much up until grand final day. So it was really nice. But some of the best games of footy were honestly interstate. Friday night's game, Adelaide and Brisbane, was just brilliant, just sensational football. I think, yeah, Monday we all enjoyed the big freeze, and we'll talk about that a little bit. It was a great atmosphere to be there. I've got the things going on. But even the game of football and, to be honest, the aftermath. I think there was one little moment in the aftermath of Monday's game that we all want to talk about. But yeah, I think it was a great game, a great round of footy. The games themselves overall, kind of when you just look at it, it kind of just ended up as we expected. Everything just felt as predicted, but the lead in, the work through kind of made it a really interesting round of football.
Yeah, no, 100% with you. Let's jump right into it. We will pull the Band-Aid off. I know you're East Perth supporter in the Waffle, but you are a Doggies supporter in the AFL. And unfortunately, your Doggies under the lid at Marvel fall to Hawthorn 81-59. As a Doggies
Yeah.
supporter, have your time. How crap was this? Because I think a lot of people have jumped on the doggies bandwagon. That Bevo has been a master this year at getting through all the injuries, Trelaw being down, Bontempelli missing the start of the season, Sam Darcy going down with his knee injury, all the drama with Jamara Ugle-Hagan. Will he ever put on a doggies jumper again? Bevo has been masterful this season, but unfortunately, Thursday night was not one of his masterpieces as the Hawthorn Hawks get a win by 22, 81-59 as a doggy supporter. How tough was this one? Because it was looking like you were getting going, and this one puts another roadblock in your way.
Yeah. It it's one of those ones where I knew it was going to happen. Honestly,
Hmm.
you can look at my tips. You can, if I was a betting man, I would have made $1 million on Thursday night because it just felt like the entire AFL narrative was that Hawthorn were coming back tonight. Hawthorn were back. They were always going to win. They were always going to put it, and we were coming off the bye. We were always going to be a bit slow, but we were just the side characters in Hawthorn's redemption story. but that said, don't take anything away from Hawthorn. They were pretty awesome. I think guys like Meek, um, there were a number of defenders coming in, just intercept marks all the way through. They they just look good. Connor Dash, another, just looked good. Um, you take a side that clearly was under the pump and wanted to win. Um, there was nothing the Dogs could do. I think Rory Lobb's efforts in defence were outstanding. He's now shown himself as the guy who 18 months ago was literally the laughing stock of the AFL, is now the one who stands up every single time, both from a football sense and also from a personal sense, where he put the fight MND on the back of
Hmm.
his hair, and he said, "This is the last time I can dye my hair because I have to get married at some point and make my hair look normal." He said, "This is the one time I'm going to make my hair important for a reason," and I just thought it was great. But yeah, in terms of the Dogs and Hawthorn, I don't know, what can you say? Chol looked amazing. Uh, I, I could make a list of
It,
20 Hawthorn players that look good.
it was a weird one because I think a lot of people had jumped on the doggies bandwagon, and I think the Hawks just kind of they look like a team that finally kind of went, oh crap, our backs are against the wall. We got to play some better football. They haven't their tackle pressure has been, I mean, absolutely putrid in previous rounds. They've looked absolutely horrible tackling. So they kind of, I think Mitchell finally got it registered in their brains, guys. If we want to pressure football, if we want to be able to play the attacking football that we want, we've got to have tackle pressure. They finally got it in this game.
Mm.
Unfortunately, it comes against the Dogs in a Marvel Stadium game. They got they got the appropriate form lifts from the guys that needed to. Marbio Chol has been one of those that sometimes he annoys me because there are times he plays a great game and then he has 3 games where he's invisible or he does very little to improve his team. When it comes to it, the doggies again, they're still kind of they're fluctuating for me because I still think they are missing Sam Darcy, and it's
Yeah.
weird to
And
say
we
that
should
that they're
and
missing a
we should get
20
him
year
back
old.
soon.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
and that's the even crazier part is that, but they are missing him a little bit just because
Yes.
he adds I mean, you can get great games from Riley West, you can get games from Vandermeer, you can get great games from role players, but they need that centerpiece that Aaron Naughton just really has not been able to fully do.
He's not done his bit this year, and I think that's
Exactly.
probably one of the biggest
Yep.
frustrations is when you
Yep.
see guys like, yeah, Weddle and Meek and whatever. They're small players but big names at
Yep.
Hawthorn doing their bit,
Yep.
and then Aaron Norton unfortunately just does not do the bit that we are
Yep.
paying him the big dollars for. There's the argument that he goes down back. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't
If
think
they were going to do it, they should have done it already.
they would have
And
done it a year ago.
it's the David King argument. If a forward doesn't work, let's throw him down back. But
Yeah.
again, it's very easy to say that when you're not at training, so we don't know. Have they tried it there and not and struggled? We don't know, and that's the
But
thing.
that's but
And you've still got
yeah,
And you still got Liam Jones waiting in the wings to still come back. Who
but
that's his position really, is that intercepting defender. So
but also you've got your Jed Buslingers, you've
yep,
got guys like that waiting in the wings, and we've literally just in the mid-season draft we've recruited 2 young tall
defenders.
backmen
Yep,
who are exactly the Jed Bustlinger, Liam Jones type, Aaron Norton type, who will play that role. But
yep.
we can't bring them in yet. So we just sit there while Norton sits up front. So that, I mean, yeah, I said I could talk for hours about the frustrations of the Dogs, and I know we'll
Hmm.
talk about a bit later. But
That
yeah,
was a
it
frustrating
is
game. That was a
it
frustrating
was
game.
it's frustrating. Frustrating is the key word. And I think of all the losses the Dogs have had this year, we had the Collingwood, we had Fremantle, we had Geelong. I feel like we lost them on moments or we lost them on luck,
Hmm.
and I could almost deal with that. Thursday night felt like we lost it on pure frustration, on
Hmm.
just pure our team not delivering what they could. So
Yep.
yeah, it was thank God for Rory Lobb is all I'll say, because that could have been a 10 goal loss. And
Yeah,
it
and
22,
which
20,
is
I
really
knew that
crazy.
22.
which
I
is
knew
really
that
crazy
22
to
seconds
say.
in the first quarter. Yeah, it's really crazy to say that.
Because I've been known to say it a few times that I thought Fremantle got better by subtraction by losing Rory Law, and I've said
Yeah.
that many a time. So
No,
I
we
will
thought it
not
right
hold
up
back
until
from that.
about round. We thought it till about round 14 of last year.
I know it's crazy to think how quickly his life has changed with that jump down back, and he's like I said, he's done fantastic, and I'm happy for him because
Yeah,
he has been a nomad when it comes to it because he really has never had that moment where it's clicked, and it finally did down back last year, and like I said, I'm happy for Rory on that one, and I agree the fight MND and the hair was absolutely fantastic. I loved that. So let's jump to it. What you said off mic, and I agree. One of the games of the round, let's go to Adelaide Oval as
yeah.
the Crows
That
knock
was
off the Lions by 5, 68-63. I got up for this game. I could not miss this game. And it's because I knew and I tipped Adelaide. And I know my co host looked at me like I was nuts because Brisbane has been in fuego. But I said, Brisbane has coughed up leads. They get a draw against North Melbourne. They lose the game a few weeks ago. Adelaide, there's just something about Adelaide at Adelaide Oval that's so much fun. And man, did
yeah,
the Adelaide Oval crowd, despite the weather, come through in droves. That place was absolutely rocking in the fourth quarter. When the first two goals when Phil Thorpe kicked that goal, I was like, here they come. Here they come. And that's exactly what happens. Crows get a 5-point win, 68-63, a magnificent game of football. But the Lions have to be kicking themselves because so many times, including Lockie Neal, had a chance to get the lead back and just couldn't kick straight.
yeah. It was a game of footy. I'll be brutally honest. It was a Friday night here in Melbourne. It was cold. It was wet, much like it was in Adelaide. I was ready to just turn off the TV and go to bed. About halfway through the second quarter, and then Rochelle kicked one from the boundary. That Josh Rochelle goal honestly just changed every fiber of that game. And I'll say it. I think Adelaide are the most exciting team, and I love watching them play football. I love watching the Crows play, which I hate to say. They are awesome to watch, and between Frank and Rochelle, the guys in the middle, it's just the more you run Rankin through the middle, the better their team is. It's beautiful to watch. But yeah, just the contrast of the accuracy. Adelaide couldn't kick a goal in the first half. Brisbane couldn't kick a goal in the second half. I don't know how do you define that, Donny? What changed?
I
What?
I don't think anything really. I don't. The only thing I can think of that changed a little bit is Adelaide's pressure kind of ramped up more
Mm,
and more as the game went on, and you could kind of see perceived pressure, like the Lockie Neal one that I was telling you about.
yeah.
He lines up. I think there was a little bit of perceived pressure on him
Mm,
because I think he rushed the shot. I think he had enough to take probably at least two or three more steps towards goal to before he got a shot off. But he chucks it from like 45 and it's braced
he's
to the
wide.
left.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a little bit of Brisbane kept Adelaide in the game. Like, and
Yeah.
some people would say, well, coach, it was 17 going into the fourth quarter. In present day footy, 30 is still close. So, like, I went into the fourth quarter thinking Adelaide needs the first goal, maybe the first two goals, just to put a little bit of pressure on Port, just to put a little pressure on Brisbane. And they
On
did it.
Brisbane. Yeah.
And they did it. The first
Yeah.
goal, Riley Thilthorpe from the boundary, absolutely.
Immediately, Phil
That,
Thorpe.
yep.
Yep.
Phil Thorpe puts
Yep.
that one through, and I'm going, that's what the Crows needed. Can they get the next one? Then they get the next one, and you could kind of see Brisbane. You could kind of see them physically tighten. Like you could see that they went,
It's the
"Uh-oh."
premiers though. You don't expect it, but they were
Yep,
clenching.
yep. They were definitely clinching. And then Jordan Dawson had himself a magnificent fourth quarter. That
Yeah.
the mark and the goal and the Adelaide Oval went absolutely bonkers. And I went, the Crows have if the Crows can just maintain the pressure, they've got this because I think
Yeah.
Brisbane are not used to going on the road and having a team absolutely counterpunch them like they have. They've been the team a little bit like Collingwood a few years ago, where Brisbane's been the team that come back and then they take the lead and then they hold it. Adelaide kind of did it to Brisbane in this one, so it'd be fascinating to see how Brisbane respond from this. But I like the Crows. I think they're a sneaky top four side. I think they're a sneaky flag side. Honestly, if they can stay healthy,
I
they can keep ranking going. I think they're sneakily in that discussion for the flag.
there's people in the world I would never want to hear me say this, but I'm really enjoying the Crows, and if they were in the premiership contention, I'd be happy.
Hmm.
They're they're great to watch. They are just a sensational team to watch.
Yep. Nope, I'm 100% with you. So let's
Yeah.
let's jump to the game that you said, and I loved the story that you told me off mic that you took a friend who had never seen a game of football to this game, Sydney Swans v Tigers MCG, as the
It
Swans get a
was
win. The
of
old
all the
ball
games
co
of football, Donny, this is one of them.
the old ball coach over here was pretty happy. The Swans get the 4 points.
Yeah.
Was
Look,
this a magnificent game of footy? Absolutely not. As a Swans fan, will I take the 4 points happily? Absolutely. The first quarter was absolute trash for the Swans. They
yeah.
played timid footy. Richmond were all over them like a cheap suit. And I don't know if it was Dean Cox giving him a spray at quarter time or if the Swans just were sleeping in a little bit and just finally woke up. But from the second quarter on, the Swans were the better team. The Swans had more pressure. The Swans were tackling better. They were kicking straighter. They were connecting with targets. Was it like as we said? Was it the greatest game of footy? Absolutely not. I have to get my hat tip. Brody Grundy's goal, the bouncing goal,
Go.
absolutely
Yes.
goal of the year candidate. Will it be? Probably not. But
It
I got
won't
to
be.
give it. I love seeing the big Grundy be able to keep that ball in play and then kick the goal. He's kind of had his renaissance. He started a little slow at the start of the season, but he's picked up as I think the last three games, he's been the best on ground for me personally for the Swans, personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have much to disagree with you there. It was look, it was not a great game of footy. It was frustrating to watch. And as I said, I brought some friends along, one from Newcastle who adopted the Swans as a New South Welsh woman. And it was their first game of football. And I said, this is the bar. I promise you the bar of football goes a lot higher than this. But
Yeah.
in terms of the game itself, look, yeah, the Swans did what they should have done. And I think they did what a team they've had injuries through the year. You've never really got I say they've never really got the run through that they should have through the year.
Hmm.
And it's probably the first time that we actually saw the Swans at a level of potential that they can have. That Brody Grundy goal, it happened at my feet. Like I watched it and it was everything as good as it looked on TV.
Hmm.
It was a ruckman acting like a rover, which honestly some of your rovers need to work harder at because it was just brilliant from Brody.
Hmm.
Really, really enjoyed it. I think Heaney got a few good goals. I think McInerney influencing turnovers. That was one that I saw through the game. He was getting involved a lot more than a lot of the Swans defenders, so I quite enjoyed that as well. But yeah, there were just a lot of misses.
Hmm.
I think Richmond had a shot on goal after the siren every quarter and missed all
Hmm.
three first, second, third quarter. They had a shot and missed it. And it was just frustrating. It was just, I think, I don't know what the official number was, but it got close to 2 hours where Richmond didn't score a goal.
Hmm.
It was,
Yeah,
it was,
'cause
it was in
from the first quarter, from near like with like 3 minutes left in the first quarter until
about
two
five to go
thirds
in the
two
last.
thirds of the way
Yeah.
through the fourth, they had no goals. And
There
as
was the Sydney fans behind me were cheering that Richmond goal in the
yep,
last quarter. That's
yep.
it's a worry. Like I don't think Sydney are a side that are there this year, but just they need to present more than that.
Yep.
They
No,
just need to present
I'm
more than that.
yeah, this was kind of the perfect little let's get a little bit of positivity into us before the buys for the Swans. Richmond is one of those that they are going to be roller coaster this year because they are very young when it comes to some of their best players. I will give one quick shout out. James Jordan's being able to absolutely shut out, absolutely lock out Nick Vlaustin and kick two goals during the game was pretty epic. It was pretty epic for me that he adds another to his keychain of padlocked people.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't
Was
even thought
James E.
of
Jordan.
Flossom, so that's
Oh,
great. Yeah,
he's
great
he's been
point.
fantastic, and you could tell Vlaustin was getting frustrated because what he's used to being able to do is drift off halfback, be able to intercept Mark, which then leads Richmond's kind of push forward. They couldn't have it. They couldn't get it done. And I again hat tip to James
Yeah.
Jordan. That was
Great call.
absolutely sensational. So let's jump down GMHBA Stadium, another wet one. Another interesting result as the Cats
Mm.
do it again as they knock off the Suns by 24, 61, 37. Again, the one thing I notice in this round is this is not a heavily scoring round. This is a round
I'll
where
get you a
good
stat on that one later, Johnny.
good to,
Yeah,
I think
don't
I
worry.
saw I think I saw that stat.
You
I
saw
will let you,
Swampy?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I think I saw that, or at least I was on one of the broadcasts where they said this was one of the lowest scoring rounds ever since like 1995. It was one of the,
Hmm.
but you want to know what? I didn't mind it because I think sometimes you need these games. You need to be able to play these games. The Cats did what they need to do.
Yeah.
They shut out the Suns where they needed to. They played tough, hard, slog footy. I absolutely loved it. The Suns kind of got exposed is that with a little bit of physicality, you can kind of make this slick, very talented team a little bit normal. And playing in Victoria in the winter, they got exposed a little bit. I mean, only 37 points in this game. I know that we you had the scare with Tom Stewart's hit on Nick on Anderson,
On
but
Anderson, yeah.
if you really look at it though, it's a clean, legal, perfectly fine bump that
Uh,
Anderson gets hurt,
it's
but he
it's
doesn't
it's
get
it's
concussed.
it's only frustrating based on what happened on Sunday night, which we'll talk about in the
Yep, no.
Carlton Essendon game. Like I agree. I don't think it was a big deal until you see the one in the
Oh yeah,
Carlton
completely
Essendon
agree.
game.
But it is a little bit
Yeah.
different because Stewart gets him in
No,
the side, doesn't
absolutely.
he
Yeah.
he
He's a good bump.
comes in perfectly fine. He doesn't put Anderson in any kind of danger of getting hurt with the hit.
It's a vicious
So,
hit. It's a good hit, but
yep.
it's where do we take the behavior of the player getting hit and the player coming into the ball, which is frustrating because you can never blame the victim, the one running in. And I don't feel like I can't see SDK being in any trouble, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it.
It was a
No.
bit of a moment.
Yeah, no, but it just the Cats did what they did. Danger come back, didn't really do a ton, which I think for a game like this, he gets minutes under his legs. He can kind of get himself back in. So I'm not going to worry if I'm a Cats fan that. But Jeremy Cameron is still playing great football. You're
Yeah,
seeing Bailey Smith, you're seeing Max Holmes playing really well through the center, and
Matt.
yeah,
Yeah, Max was the one I was gonna jump on. I mean, 40 touches, 800 meters game, like that
yep,
is elite football. He must be one of the I'd say underrated, but I think we're rating him now.
yep.
We rate
Some
we
people
rate
are,
Max Holmes,
some
don't
people
we?
are,
I
yeah,
hope
some
people are
people are.
rating him because he must be up there with some of the best, one of the best players in the last 5 years. Like he just does not get talked about.
Hmm.
But between him, Graham Myers, excellent as always. I think he had 26 and a
Yep.
goal. Atkins 23. Like just those guys to me, Atkins, Graham Myers, and Holmes to me are just three of the best footballers going around at the moment. Suns have not won a game at GMHBA.
Hmm.
That's a stat. Frustrating as it must be for Dimmer and for the Suns. They
Yep.
need to win down at Geelong. It's not easy for anyone. The Dogs won two in 2 years, and that to us is, that's a moment of pride. It's
Hmm.
not easy to win down there, but you've got to win down there if you want to win premierships.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of the old head of the Cats against a up and coming, still
Yes.
relatively young cat Gold Coast Sun side. Like Damian Hardwick can take a lot from this because he can
Yeah.
look at his young boys and go, look at the team you just played. Do they have the superstar talent that you guys have? No, they don't, but they work really well in a really good system. They know their roles, they know what they're supposed to do, and they do it to their best of their ability. And I think it's surprisingly. despite the loss, I think it will bring a lot of really good learnings to this young Gold Coast team. Will this Gold Coast team make finals? I hope so. I really kind of hope they do
I
because
hope
they're
so
an
as well.
entertaining
Yeah.
group to watch. But this is what I worry about when they get to finals is if they have to go on the road for any of their finals, it's going to be a struggle because they're not a very good wet weather footy team, which is surprising for being a Queensland team with all the dew. You'd think they'd be a little bit more used to it.
They were great in
Maybe
Darwin,
it's the
trust me.
maybe it's the cold wet, I think is
It's
maybe throwing them off.
it
I
is
don't
a
know.
different and I said this is the first real winter weather that Victoria has had. Like this weekend,
Yep.
you see the conditions by Monday at the MCG. It has been rainy, it has been cold, it has been, oppressive. So I can imagine Geelong almost twice as bad. It would be tough for a team from the Gold Coast to come down and play in that. It's not dewy cold. It's your fingers hurt when the ball hits you
Yep.
cold.
Yep. It's the finger breaker cold, which is
Oh yeah,
never,
that's
never,
just
never fun. So we'll jump
never fun.
we'll jump up to the nation's capital up in Canberra as we get Manuka Oval as the GWS Giants fall to the Port Adelaide Power
Yeah,
66 to 50. A little bit of a shocker here, but I think one of them, and again, I hate saying one player is one of the reasons why they fell short, but when your captain goes down with that nasty corky on his hip, I mean, he looked like one of those guys from the old Desperado movies that got shot because he kind of playfully he holds the back of his and slowly falls to the ground. I'm devastated for Toby because as much as he's an absolute rat bag at times, he does things that some players just can't. And he is a linchpin for that GWS Giants team. In fact, I will say this: if it weren't for Buckley and Taylor in the back, this could have got ugly for the Giants. Legitimately, this could have gotten ugly if it weren't for Taylor and Buckley in the back. Port did what they needed to do. I don't really know what else to say about this game,
yeah.
if I'm
I
being
must
honest
admit,
with you.
I am probably just playing this off highlights. I was out at dinner after the Richmond Sydney game, so I probably am definitely not the expert. But all I saw was Toby go down, and all I thought was, is Toby's butt okay? That was the question. Is
Hmm.
his butt okay? And he went down. But from what I saw, and I did look at some stats and some replays afterwards. Look, yeah, he both the Greens, Toby and Tom, were probably linchpins for GWS. And when Toby went down, Tom stood up. He had
Hmm.
got a shed load of possessions, 30 odd, maybe.
Hmm.
But for Port, I think it was just the Butters and Rosie show. And
Yep.
as a Western Bulldog supporter, it was great to see Butters doing well. I can't wait to see him in red, white, and blue next year.
It makes me
Sorry, I had to
chuckle.
say it.
You're good. You're
Yeah.
not you are not the
Ah,
only you're not the only one that went with that. I'll be
nah.
fascinated to see that happen. Again, I'll be interested. But
Yeah.
I mean, Port they get it done. Rosie kind
And
of doing a rotational position of wing and halfback has been fun to see him kind of
yeah,
find that little niche that I think gets him out of the center midfield. It takes tagging away a little bit, which I think
he does. He
really
does. Yeah.
opens him up. And I think it really has helped him because the loss of Dan Houston is the reason that Rosie is there. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. If, if,
Yeah.
if Dan Houston is there, Rosie is still in the center midfield. But
Rosie's still in the
because Dan
middle.
Houston now finds himself in black and white in Melbourne instead of
And
teal
Brisbane.
and white in Adelaide, that is the reason why Connor Rosie is there. Is because
Yeah.
most of the teams have started to realize you need that ball moving, good kicking, getting it started halfback flanker on your team. So many teams that have
Yeah.
been successful this year. Your Nasiah Wangani Millers for St. Kilda's, your Dan Rioli's and John Nobles from the Gold Coast. You've got your Nick Blakey's at Sydney. You've got your Bailey Dales at the Western Bulldogs. These really good kicking, ball moving halfback flankers are the way to go in present day AFL. And I think that's the reason why Connor Rosie has
Yeah.
had that shift to the halfback flanker to fit in for what Dan Houston was doing previous seasons before. Again, Port did what they needed to do. I
Yeah.
don't blame Alir. I'm not angry at Alir for what
No.
happened with Toby. It's purely an accident. He's trying to defend himself as he goes up for marking contest. Again, hoping Toby comes back soon. Again, it's a devastating injury for this Giants team that really they've fallen off a cliff since the start of the year when they obliterated Collingwood and everybody was like, okay, everybody's GWS is a flag contender. They've got the opportunity. They have really fallen off a cliff since then, and I worry a little bit. GWS may fall out of finals
Uh,
if Toby is out for any significant amount of
yeah.
time.
I, I honestly I don't see GWS as a top eight side, and maybe that's controversial at this point of the year, but
I don't think
I
it's
just
controversial right now.
no,
By
yeah,
form, absolutely
yeah,
not.
by form and take Toby out of the equation. I just don't feel like they've been showing what they could. Like to be honest, one of the players when I look back on it, one of the players I saw that was best was Harry Himmelberg.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you don't ever see Harry Himmelberg as a hero of a game, but he had intercept marks galore. He had 16 touches at 100% disposal efficiency. Like he
Yeah.
to me, when I was looking back on the game, I was like, at least he's doing his job. And again, I'm a little bit stung with the Bulldogs defense struggling with disposal efficiency out of the back line, but I just saw that and I thought that was good. I mean, you look at the other end, you look at Sam Taylor, the
Yeah.
best defender in the AFL.
One of the best fullbacks in the entire
Of
competition. There
in
there
the
is there
entire
is
like of all
no argument from me at
of
all.
of decades gone. Like he's doing like Georgiades is a great forward, but Sam Taylor just
Too
just
good. Just too good.
sent into the
Just too good.
shadows. Yep.
Oh yeah.
And
I
yet and
Taylor
yet
Taylor Wilkie and Wiedering are three of the best that honestly I think that I wish they would get a little bit more plaudits than they actually do because all of them play on teams that they're getting a little bit more work than they probably should.
Mhm.
And they still stand up and
and
they
they
still play great footy. Like
and
I think Cal Wilkie will probably get the fullback spot for
yeah,
all
Australian.
Australian this year just because he has had a little bit more consistency. But man, those three, I mean, it is hard to split those three because they all
Yeah.
do their thing on the fullback line better
I'd, I'd
than most.
I'd add Tom Barras to that list. Less noticed now that he's at Hawthorn. But at West Coast, he was the best
I
defender
agree.
going around.
I
And at,
agree.
at Hawthorn now, I think he's looking good that because Sicily's out, maybe. But he
I think he took
again,
Sicily's spot and it really has kind of made Sicily a nomad, honestly.
that is
That
what
is my honest
I
opinion.
saw Thursday night with Sicily out. Again, we can talk about the Dogs for hours, but I thought Sicily out was the best thing that could have happened for Hawthorn.
Yeah, I think it actually helped them. Plus
And
the
Tom,
fact his kicking has been atrocious too. So
yeah, well, yeah.
let's move on.
Let's roll on Sunday.
As the WA man that you are, I know you're living in Victoria, but originally from WA. This had to be fun, and I know we talked off mic a little bit. This, how cool is it? West Coast versus North at in Bunbury at Hands Oval. The Roos get the win 62-52. Again, was this the most magnificent game of football? Absolutely not. But how cool is it to see a game in Bunbury?
Pretty sure back in about 2011, I went to a music festival at Hands Oval in Bunbury. I feel like the quality of football at that music festival was better than the game we watched. It's so frustrating because we were going to talk about statistics and we're going to talk about how this was one of the lowest average scores games rounds of all time. I think Swamp Thing has said it is the lowest average score of the modern era in terms of aggregate team scores. What's frustrating is this was the most beautiful day in the most beautiful town in the southwest of WA, which I can promise you is I if anyone gets a chance to visit Bunbury, if anyone gets to go down to the southwest of WA, do it. It's amazing. And Hands Oval, yeah, is a great venue. It was just a frustrating game of football. And I don't want to let the game of football define the region. So maybe Donny, you should speak on this more than
I
I should.
this was one of those that honestly, like again, all due credit to North for having the
Yeah.
the cojones, to have the huevos to sell a couple of games from Victoria out to the west, and play West Coast and Fremantle
Because
technically
they're going
in
to
their
Optus next week, aren't they? Yeah.
in yep, they're in Optus Stadium next week against Fremantle, but it's a North home game. So I respect North for doing that. Again, is it frustrating? I know a few North fans. I get the frustration a little bit, but they're going to make money off this because the West Coast fans are going to come to support Fremantle. They get an extra game of football at home. I love this. Was the football the greatest? Absolutely not. North got the win that they needed because they really have been underperforming compared to Clarko's third season. I know this is his first year where he really has full-timely been there, so from preseason all the way through to where he is now. North is a team that honestly, if you look at it, there's a ton of young talent, but it still is developing. It still has its days of brain fades. It's going to happen. West Coast, they are still paying for the list manager's decision to hold on to some of the 2000 to the 2018 grand final and the memories of all of the great accomplishments by their older players. They really have paid for it. And the Tim Kelly trade. Okay, let me roll that into. They are still paying for it. They're starting to grow. I like them under Minnie. I think Minnie has brought a lot of good things. Minnie has brought a football that they're gonna deal with some headaches, but I think in the long run it's going to set them up for future success. This is two teams that really they just had a good old fashioned slog. The only thing that kind of sucks about it is that it would the score would be understandable in a Victorian cold winter night, but this was a Bunbury gorgeous perfect deck, sunny game.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part.
Yeah.
North will take the 4 point, a lot like Sydney. North will take the 4 points, but they're probably going to chuck this game film into the fire and not look at it because it is
Yeah.
not worth wasting the time on it. Again, I'm liking what Minnie is doing again. Are the results there? No. But I'm liking what Minnie is doing with the West Coast. They're going to be a side that's going to annoy somebody because they're going to knock off a team that's going for a final spot, or even a team that maybe has a chance for a premiership. They're going to be them, North and Richmond are going to be the three teams I'm going to keep an eye on because they are going to influence the finals. I will tell everybody this. I say this. Teams like this influence the finals because they're going to nip somebody. They're going to catch somebody on the perfect day and it's going to throw everything out of whack. So, this is, again, not the greatest round of footy. North get the 4 points. I think West Coast again. They're both going to chuck this into the fire, but it was great to see it down in Bunbury. The hands oval looked absolutely sensational. The deck was gorgeous. I hope to see more games down in Bunbury because the fans showed up and showed out. It was absolutely magnificent. Thank you, Bunbury people. Hands oval was absolutely gorgeous. Let's move on. We'll jump to the MCG for Sunday night footy as Carlton survive a scare by the Essendon Bombers by 8, 78-70, and another cold Melbourne night produces less than great football. But I think that as Nick kind of brought up, the one thing everybody's talking about from this game is the Sam Durham bump on Adam Chera.
Yeah. It, I don't know. Where do we reflect more? Do we reflect more on the bump? Do we reflect more on Carlton's medical staff not taking Chera off and questioning him as early as they did?
17 minutes
Do we reflect on Durham's actions? Like to me, it was a lose lose lose. Everything about it felt
was
bad, and we
wrong.
were
Yep,
I was at the
I agree.
ground, and people around us felt uncomfortable about it.
Yep, no, I'm 100% with you. The Durham hit, I mean, come on, Sam. You have to see. You're not getting that footy. The bump was just way too reckless. I mean, Chera is lucky he is still
He's
walking.
not,
Like,
yeah,
let's just be
and that
honest. I am not, this is not hyperbole. This is not me. There were AFL announcers that basically, again, I hate indicting a young man for making a mistake, but that mistake could have cost Chera his career, big
that was
time.
wheelchair territory.
Oh yeah,
I
exactly.
I know the Brayshaw boys well, and 2 out of 3 of them, actually all 3 of them, really, have had an experience where they could have ended up in a wheelchair, and it's hard to see that kind of footy, and it's almost more frustrating to see it replayed over and over and over again because you can't
Yeah,
look that deeply into it. You see it and you go,
yeah.
that was a man who could have ended up in a wheelchair. That's it.
And he
And
did. He really is lucky that he was able to do what he did after that hit. Again, I'm not going to lambast Sam Durham. I mean, Sam Durham, you know what you did wrong. You know
yeah,
you're going to have a little mini vacation here in the middle of the
he'll
season.
come. Yeah,
Cop it. Cop your three, cop your four.
he got. I think two was the final number.
Yeah, which
But it was only
I'm
two.
kind of surprised it's that lenient.
Yeah,
Honestly, I was expecting three, between three and four, honestly, personally. Um, on the medical staff on Carlton,
yeah,
again, for a competition that continues to scream that we're trying to do our best to stop concussions, this shit can't happen. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm not
No,
going to be nice about it.
not going to
This
disagree with you, Donny.
shit can't happen. Okay. The umpires need to stop play. Chera needs to be taken off. It should not come down to the competency of the medical staff. Okay. It cannot. I'm sorry. And the fact that there was no free kick in the first place is almost as bewildering. Um, and I know again, I hate saying it, but again, I said it last week in the episode. The AFL, the umpires, nobody is right. Nobody is right here, okay? I just want these young men to be taken care of in the fashion they put their bodies on the line. They need that same respect of being taken care of by the competition, by the umpires. And another screw up with this is frustrating as a fan because
So
Chera deserves better.
yeah. So I'll just give my opinion as someone who was at the ground, and I did have we sort of went down to the bar in the
Hmm.
second quarter, so we had a little bit of access to the TVs and saw that Chera was still on the ground. But all we saw when he was sort of moving around on the field was that I guess the medical staff were looking at their TV. They were looking at the replay on the TV and they were looking at it over and over and over and over again. To me, it's like, cool, look at the replay as much as you want. Doesn't give you a head assessment injury of the player who's head injury assessment of the player who's out there. Just get him off for 2 minutes. And we
Hmm.
had this whole issue with Port Adelaide maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I forget. But it
To,
was
yep.
yeah, 2 years ago. It was the exact same thing. And Port Adelaide did get punished for it. But it's just like, what is the cost of taking a player off for a minute and a half and saying, yep, you know what day of the year it is. You're not concussed. You're okay. We'll send you back out there. It just
Hmm.
costs nothing just to do that check. And that's what frustrated me is like, sure, he's a footballer. He's a stubborn player. He probably just wanted to be out there and having a kick. But just get him off for 2 minutes,
Hmm.
do the most basic of checks and just check in on a fellow human.
Yep.
That's what frustrated me. And yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because
No, 100%.
I feel like it underrides what was actually a decent game of footy,
Yep.
a weird game of footy. But
That it
yeah,
was.
it was frustrating. It was frustrating, Donny. I'm glad you pointed it out before I did because it's just
Yep. No.
we don't need to deal with concussions. We need to deal with people playing football.
Yep. No, 100%. This is a game, like we'll go to the game now. This was a game. Essendon did everything they possibly could to win this footy game.
Yeah,
For a team that is undermanned, for a team that has so many injuries of people over 190 centimeters, they did everything they possibly could to win this game. Carlton just did enough. But again, this is another one of those. This Carlton team has frustrated the crap out of me because if you look at their list, and again, I know list on paper, and I say it all the time, list on paper does not mean great team on the field. But I look at it, Walsh, Crippa, Hewitt, Kerno. I mean, Mackay didn't play in this, but
I
Mackay is
didn't play,
on
but he's
there.
still there. Yeah,
This was frustrating because Carlton had a chance to really put up a good score to kind of get some confidence into the group going on through this season. And they had a wonderful first quarter. And then it was like everything they did in the first quarter, they were like, no, we can't do that no more. It was very frustrating because they damn near cost themselves this win because they went away from what was absolutely killing Essendon in the first quarter. And I think that was the most frustrating part about this is that this is a Carleton team that honestly I see so much potential in it. I see so much to where they could be in the flag contention. They could
Yeah.
be a top four side. But it's just they just have these moments where I think that because they have Charlie Curnow and when Mackay plays, well, they can do it. Kick. And there's no direction, there's no rhyme or reason to it. And it just literally, I feel bad for their defenders at times. I feel bad for Wiedering and Sod and Ollie Hollins and their defenders because they are constantly put under pressure because going from midfield to forward, there's just this absolutely insane disconnect. And that's frustrating.
Sard kicked the first goal of the game.
Yep.
So, you're seeing a defender do well. And I think one guy I want to just shout out for Carlton before I shout out someone for Essendon was Hewitt. He was brilliant. Like Elijah Hewitt, just one of the best footballers going around. Again, we talked about Sam Taylor
He's
at
been he's
GWS.
been one of the few that's been consistent the entire
He's
year,
just
and he was when he played at Sydney. I will hands up here.
oh yeah.
He's another one like Jordan Dawson that is a cast off from Sydney because the midfield had too many really good players, and he was one of the cast offs.
Right.
George goes to Carlton because they had Luke Parker, they had JPK, they had Isaac Heaney,
JPK.
they had Rowbottom, they had so many in the midfield they couldn't afford to keep him. So Georgie Hewitt goes to Carlton, and he did exactly what he did
Yeah.
he's done exactly what he did at Sydney, but he's getting more plaudits because he's in Victoria, and he's been the
Ah,
one that stepped up when Crippa and Walsh have had games.
that's what I think is more
He's
important
been
is he
consistent. He's been
that's what I think is
consistent
more
this
important
entire
is
year.
he's consistent. Yeah, for sure. And then if I can just shout out one more,
Sure.
I'm gonna mess up his name, but Luamon Lual,
The debutante, yep.
the debutant, first kick,
Man,
first
was it
goal,
fantastic to see his
and
family after he
just
kicked the
his
goal.
family. Like we looked up, we saw it. Just the family hugging. It was just like that's why we watch footy, isn't it?
And
The
my
little guy,
favorite part about it is
South Warrnambool,
it's another South Sudanese,
South
it's another
Sudanese. Yeah.
African born player that is having fantastic success playing this wonderful game. That
Yep.
damn it, let it be a melting pot. This is another thing that I know, and I know this is a fun one. Social media can be such a cesspool because of so many people that are these racist bigot
Oh
pieces of
yeah.
crap that get after, like I know Saad El Houali earlier in the year when they were interviewing his family and the absolute trash that was online going after him. So seeing Lual and his family celebrating, seeing, I know it wasn't in a win, but
Pure joy.
look at the smiles on their faces when when he ran into his family after the game. They were so excited. They were so pumped for him. I'm so happy. I want to
Yeah.
see another one of these absolutely
Yeah.
magnificent athletes that of African descent have some success as a footy player. It is
To,
so good to see that. Good on you, mate. Keep it
to
up.
me,
Keep it up.
that's football to me. That to me is
Absolutely
football.
love it.
100% love it. So yeah,
Yep.
I just want to give that a shout out. Like he calls himself a Warner boy, yes, but he's got the Sudanese heritage. Look, love it. Just love seeing people just enjoying football.
Yep, absolutely love it. Now let's jump to it. We will jump to Monday as we are recording this on Tuesday because we had the Big Freeze 11 again. Neil Danaher, you absolute
Yeah.
legend. I have his book back there. I need to read it. I just need to find the time to be able to sit down and read a book for once. But we were treated to again, were the conditions great? Absolutely not. Was the field in kind of messed up condition? Maybe a little bit, but Collingwood and Melbourne gave us an absolute show. The Big Freeze was fantastic. The game of footy was just as good. The Pies get a 1 point win, 72-71. Nick, you were there. I got a video
Yeah.
that you sent me of the Collingwood great Peter Dacos
Peter.
going down the slide. How cool was the Big Freeze? It was absolutely magnificent. The
Uh
beanies were everywhere. The costumes were magnificent. I had to give it to all of them. And one I have to definitely say is seeing Tubby Taylor come out
as Warnie.
as Warnie was absolutely
Yeah.
awesome. I gotta give it to him. That was a great little touch. I think the Triple M broadcast when they were calling it, they were like, "We know it's Warnie. We know Tubby's coming as Warnie." So that was the least bit guess. But I mean, Peter Dacos coming out as the Joker as Heath Ledger was absolutely awesome. I love the Big Freeze. It is absolutely such an awesome cause seeing Neil Danaher smile and everything, seeing him continue to fight this insidious disease. but be so happy and bring so much joy is absolutely magnificent. And the game was not to disappoint. The D's came out, they gave it a red hot crack. They're probably kicking themselves a little bit for not kicking straight. And again, it's been their bane this entire year, but the Pies, they get it done when they need to.
Yeah. I'll probably touch on before I touch on the game. I might just mention how awesome the atmosphere was for the Big Freeze. And I don't know, Donny, did you know all the Australian references? Because obviously the Neil was the Australian of the Year
Hmm.
for 2025. So all the references that came out from all the I don't know what you call them, the divers,
Yep.
the
The sliders.
they
Yep. The
were
great
the
Great
sliders.
Australians
They
was the
were all
theme this year.
Australians.
So,
Were
yep.
there any there that threw you off, or you were on
No,
okay with them?
I got most of them, and the ones I
Even
didn't,
Sharon Strzelecki?
that was the
That's
only one I wasn't 100%
yeah.
sure, and I was gonna dive into it a little bit, but just didn't get a chance
We'll
to.
teach you capping Kim after this podcast. Don't worry. That's an Australian legend. Lisa Healy was brilliant.
She
Yeah, no,
was.
the atmosphere was brilliant, and one thing that doesn't get caught on TV is as Neil is going around the MCG while the teams are coming out doing their warm up. Everyone's on their feet and just applauding. It is a
Hmm.
standing ovation around the entire MCG, and it's look, I'm not gonna lie, I cried a little bit. It was beautiful.
Hmm.
He's just an amazing human and an inspiration to all of us. And yeah, like I wear this beanie not just for fun, but it's something that we all should appreciate. But yeah, you got Melbourne fans, Collingwood fans, the old Danaher Essendon fans, just all together, and I loved it. As for the game, yeah, it was a ripper of a game. The Langdon tag on Dacos was quite funny for the first quarter or so,
Hmm.
and I think he did a good job. But I think yeah, you just saw Melbourne didn't take their chances. They were playing hoofball. They were sending the
Yep.
ball inside 50. There were complaints about the umpiring decisions. I won't go into that, but I feel like if Melbourne had taken their chances in that first half, there'd be no questions on umpiring because
I
everything leveled
agree.
out in the second half, and um, there was just some brilliant plays like Tholst. I can't pronounce his name.
Full
Tholstrom.
strip. Yep.
Thank you from Melbourne. Brilliant. One of the best forwards I've seen going around as a young fella. My Brody Myercheck is one of my favorite footballers of all time. He's just a workhorse who keeps going and going and going. And Steele, side bottom, who must have got some robotic implants or something because how can he kick goals from 55 meters out as at his age? He's older than me.
Think he found the fountain of youth in the
Yeah,
offseason, and
it's
he shared a little bit with
ridiculous.
Pendles because
With
Pendles is
Pendles,
playing back to
he
his
just
to some of his
he
absolute magnificent form too.
it's incredible. So that's what I think Collingwood have just found this difference between, they've got the youth of the Dacos boys. Josh was brilliant, obviously winning the trophy as best on ground.
Yep.
Nick with the tag was excellent. And yeah, then you see the old of Steele and Pendles who just look brilliant. Look,
Yep.
Collingwood they just got it forward at all costs. They look brilliant. They just kept going, going, going. Melbourne, if they'd shown up in the first half, if they'd really made that effort in the first half, I think they could have won that. It
I
was
agree.
it was the it was it was the best way to finish what was a very interesting round of footy.
Yep, absolutely fantastic and fantastic. It was a great end to the round of footy. And I know some people are like, well, coach, are you going to talk about the spat between him and May? I'm not because
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
just
couple of
Stephen.
it's a couple of competitors do again. I've heard that, and that's the other argument that I've heard is that Stephen May being Stephen May, he may
Yeah,
be an absolute he may be an absolute rat bag to some, but that's sometimes the way it is. Gani is a professional. I mean, he kind of de-escalated it. What
yeah.
some
I
people
think
would say.
well the
I think
fact
he
that
de-escalated
he
it
went
about
straight
as
to the
easily as
media
he can. Yep.
and he just nipped it in the
He
bud.
de-escalated it, and that I appreciate because he could have been a total prick and absolutely thrown Stephen May under the bus and been. Nope, he de-escalated. He's a great cap. This is the reason why
Yeah,
he's one of the best captains in the league.
yeah.
Again, I love Maxi Gone to death. He
There's
is
a reason
ever the
Cadell Evans
professional.
dressed up like him.
Yep, yep. Oh yeah, that was absolutely Cadell Evans. That was
And then
hilarious.
when Max came out and sat next to him, oh, it was beautiful.
That was
I
gold.
was right there. It was just so good to
Absolutely
see.
gold. Absolutely gold. So
Yeah,
that is it. That is all 7 games against St. Kilda and
yeah.
Fremantle got to kick up their feet on the couch over the weekend. Let's jump to the burning questions. And there's two really big topics that I want to talk about before we get into a fun one. So let's start with the one that kind of goes out of football a little bit. And I know some fans, this is an interesting topic to talk about. As a fan, as a footy fan, how frustrating is the drama around the Tassie license?
Uh, um, more so just frustrating about having footy in Tassie. So I've got a bit of a, I mean, I'll say I've got a bit of a background in construction and
Hmm.
engineering. So I actually do, I know a little bit of the history of what's going on with the new stadium
Hmm.
at Macquarie Point, and I can't say too much. But what I will say is what they want there is state of the art, and it would be
Hmm.
beautiful, and it would be amazing for Tasmania to have that.
They're great.
And I know how many dollars have gone into the preliminary works, the assessments, the design, the conceptual work, and the schematic work. So for me, as an engineer, as someone who loves construction, I would love to see that come to fruition.
Hmm.
At the same time, I can totally appreciate the people of Tasmania who say, we've got a perfectly good stadium at Bellerive that you could throw another tier on. We've got a perfectly good stadium at York Park down in Launceston that you can throw another tier on. Why is this something that is going to be our budget for the next X years?
Hmm.
And you sort of see that in Queensland with the 2030 whatever Olympics.
To 2032. Yep.
2032, yeah. So
Or
there's this, yeah,
yeah.
32. Yeah. So there's this question of like, do we really need to invest this amount of money for something that may not be long term? But I think the Tasmanian football team should be long term. So look, I'm conflicted, Donny. I don't have a clear answer for you. To me, I can totally see the Tasmanian approach of we've got two perfectly good stadiums, we've got a perfectly good um, footy culture that we can spread between two towns.
Hmm.
But I can imagine having some sort of marquee venue is something that both the Tasmanian government, well, as it currently stands, the no confidence Tasmanian government,
Hmm.
and the AFL would see as a marquee draw. So they want
Yep.
this, but it is literally tearing government apart right now. And so you have to ask the Tasmanian people.
Here's the thing, and again, I know this is from way away from the whole situation. This is where politics anger me because this is where politics say that they don't want to get involved in the people don't want sports involved with politics, but this is one of those situations where politics doesn't think about everything. Politics really kind of takes a lens of about that wide. That's it. And I think that's the frustrating part. I get the argument about the two stadiums that they already have in Launceston and Hobart. 100% understand that. But the thing though is that are they massive? Are you going to get the S? And again, I've heard this argument is, are you going to get the Collingwood to the Essendon to go down? All due respect, AFL, when are you ever going to send Collingwood or Essendon down to Tasmania? So that's a stupid
Don't.
argument.
So I was worried about
That's a
burning. I was
stupid
worried
argument.
about fixtures being the burning question because you would keep me going for an hour. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
no, no,
Oh
no,
yeah. No,
no.
no. I am not afraid. I am not afraid to say it that the fixturing, they will never go down there.
Yeah,
Or if they go down, yeah, they will not go down there. It'll be the Western Bulldogs, it'll be North, it'll be St. Kilda, it'll be the smaller ones that go down there. It'll be the Hawthorns that'll go down there. It won't be the Collingwood, the Essendons, the Richmonds. They won't go down there. And even if they did, what's wrong with only 40,000? I've made this argument so many times when it comes to Geelong. Like, I get it. The AFL wants to see 100,000 seat MCG. I get it, but that doesn't, in my personal
that's
opinion,
not gonna do it.
who cares? If Geelong want to play in their home ground, let them play in their home ground. If Tassie want to play in Hobart, let them play in Hobart. I get them. I get the Macquarie Point argument because it's going to bring jobs, it's going to bring money to Tassie. The argument you also have is that cricket wants to get involved now because they don't want the roof, because if they have the roof, then you can't play test cricket down in Macquarie
Mm,
Point because you can't
yeah,
do
well,
that.
then, yeah, but again, this is where I again come from the engineering perspective.
It's
You can, and
it's
there
the
was,
minutia points that I
but
think a lot of people.
there were tens of thousands of dollars spent justifying having a roof and being able to play cricket. So that money's been spent, that work's been done,
Yep,
and
yep, no,
and
I
and
get it.
now and now the argument is, but why?
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think it's that's the frustrating part. And I agree with what I agree with what Chris Fagan said is that it is if this falls through, okay, if the Macquarie Point doesn't happen and the AFL goes, well, we gave our parameters, no license. That could be it for Tassie getting their own team. And that stinks. That absolutely is putrid decision. I get it. Okay. I understand. Again, I get both sides of this. Like I literally am Switzerland. Like I would love a Tassie team, but I get the AFL's argument that if they want big crowds down there, which is again, for some weird reason, they're worried more about the people in the stands more than worried about the product on the field. Again, I will take that shot. I don't care. The AFL, they kind of they put one leg down, but then they kick their own leg out from underneath them
Yeah,
and then expect to stay standing. And that's the frustrating part about the AFL a little bit with me is that I think they need to pull back on this. We need the stadium. Get the license, get them together, then we can
yeah.
figure that out. I agree with you. Add some more stands to Hobart and to Launceston until you can, because if you don't, I mean, you're going to lose it completely instead of getting them the license, getting them going, and then working the rest of it out as we go. Because again, the stadium wasn't going to be done. Even at the earliest, they were talking about not even being done till 2031. So the first 4 or 5 seasons, they're going to have to play in Hobart and Launceston because they don't have a stadium to play in, and you don't want to be an all-time road team where every game is a road game. So I don't know. I kind of feel like both sides have things that they need to give on a little bit. And I worry that they're both way too stuck. They both have dug their heels in way too much for any good negotiation or good faith negotiation for this whole thing to even happen. And it's not even about the construction anymore. For me, it's just AFL's
No,
going,
it's the
no.
license. It's the license, and
Yep.
it overall, if you take away the stadium, if you take away the Bellerive or Macquarie Point, if you take away the York Park or Macquarie Point, it's if they don't get the 19th license, they don't get the 20th license. So there's no footy team in Darwin or there's no third footy team in WA, whatever they're planning on, because those are the two big calls.
Yep.
If you don't get the team in Tasmania, you don't get that 20th team.
Yep.
There's no alternative. It's not like you can say we're not doing Tassie, so we'll do WA. It's you do Tassie and then you
You
pick the
have
team.
to do both to even the
You
competition
have to
out.
do both.
Yep.
Yep, 100%.
Yep. No. And that's the frustrating part. Like I said, so we'll keep an eye on it, but unfortunately I am not super confident either way. I'm
Yeah.
really not
No,
confident either way. And
it's
that's frustrating because how the excitement for the Tassie Devils was absolutely palpable when they talked about this. And to see it absolutely this thing could completely blow up in the AFL's face a little bit. And
but
that's gonna suck.
and it's gonna all be off the back of it'll be an AFL thing, but you'll
Yep.
see it because of the political thing. You'll
Yep.
see
No, 100%.
the election, but it's not that. It's the AFL's mismanagement and miscommunication.
Well,
Miss
it's an overarching demand that I think they needed to be a little bit more flexible on.
Yeah, they need to
Just a
work.
little
Yeah,
bit more
100%. I'm
flexibility.
with you
Get
here.
this license
Yeah,
because there's so many people in Tassie that want that team. Come on, give us a little Andrew Dillon. I understand you're trying to establish your role as the CEO, but come on, have a little bit of flexibility because right now
yeah,
everybody wants this team. There are fans in every single state that love footy that want Tassie in the competition,
yep.
and you're literally putting your foot down over something so petty, and it's frustrating as all hell. So
It's
I
such,
want to get
yeah.
off of this
Yeah,
again.
sorry. Move on,
No,
move
no,
on.
no, no, no,
All
no.
good.
It
All
is
good.
not your fault. It is just I could, you and I could,
No.
because we're
Yeah.
so. I want this Tassie team so damn bad, and I'm not even in the freaking country. And I
And
think
then
that's
just an
the
hour south of
frustrating
me.
part
Yeah.
is, yeah, exactly. I want Tassie so bad because there's so many
Yeah.
great Tasmanians that have graced the AFL, that how awesome would it be? So to see these two literally having a pissing competition of which is going to be the thing is just very frustrating because I want the footy. Screw the politics. I don't give a crap about the politics. Give me this footy team. I'm yes, I'm a diehard Swans fan, but they'll become my second team a little bit because I'm gonna love this Tassie team when they come in. But if they don't, it's just it's gonna be such a clusterfuck if it happens the
Yeah.
way it looks
Yeah.
like it's going to. So
Yeah.
I want to let you have you some fun because I know as we talked pre-mic, this was something you were very fired up about. So I'm gonna get it as a footy fan. Give me your honest opinion on all these buys.
No, I don't know where to start, honestly. I just can't. Yeah, I think my biggest frustration is with the fixture as a whole. I did a little bit of a cross tab and just looked at the fact that the Dogs are playing St Kilda this Thursday. I realized last weekend was the first time I'd been to an AFL game since Easter. Doesn't sound like long ago. But the last time I went to a game, that was Easter Sunday when the Dogs played St Kilda. So we're playing within about 6 weeks of each other. And then I just can't get over the fact that there's a two-bye weekend. There's two teams taking the week off. There's four teams taking a week off. There's two teams here taking a week off. There's four teams. I understand opening round puts the cat amongst the pigeons.
Mhm.
And I understand the cyclone put the cat in the pigeons amongst
The
the
Cyclone.
blender. Yeah, exactly. So I know that this year is a little bit different to most because there was a little bit of a mess around at the start of the year and trying to get GWS Geelong, GWS, no, it wasn't GWS, it was Gold Coast and Brisbane to play games.
Mhm.
But I just cannot, for the life of me, work out why there are fixtures that teams are having buys at this point, and I think it's around 6 rounds in a row now where teams are taking buys,
Mhm.
and yet teams are playing each other for the second time in 6 weeks, and teams are not playing each other until around 23 or
Mhm.
24. Like I could go on my full bias and give you the Dogs fixture. I don't think we play Adelaide till round 22. I don't think we play West Coast until round 23. I think there's a familiar story for most teams where they're playing teams for the first time in around 22, 23, or 24. It it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know. There are some very smart people working out the AFL fixtures, but they seem to have not considered this mid-season break and how it impacts on actual flow of teams playing.
Yep. No, I 100% it is the biggest pet peeve for so many people is that the opening round extra bye because they're playing a week earlier and they get the second bye. And I know that Chris Scott has absolutely lost his over it and he's done that numerous times. I will continue to say this. I don't think the second bye is an advantage, really. I think it actually hurts because you play two games and you get a bye. Like, honestly, I know most footballers, they want some consistent 7, 8, 9, 10 games to get themselves into a groove. So, personally, I don't see the second bye as an advantage. And again, everybody's like, well, coach, you're a Swans fan. It would, yeah, but I didn't think that the Swans really took the first bye much better, and I'm deathly
Look at the
terrified
Dogs.
of the
Look at the
second
Dogs off the
bye.
first bye.
Exactly. So the fixture will never be perfect because again, I will continue to say it, and it's one of the reasons why I will argue with a lot of people. The fixture is compromised because the competition has 10 teams in one state. That's
Yep.
let's just be honest. Okay.
And
It's
and
the
and
other
four marquee teams
yeah,
who
yeah.
all need to
And
play each other twice.
exactly. And the other problem that I see, and for me, like that's the reason why when I see people complain about the academies, I go, well, let's do a trade, okay? You get less games in Victoria, and we'll give up the academies and watch them really shut up about it. Like that's my point. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna complain about the academies, then we have the right to complain about the fixture because the fixture is very much weighted towards the Victorian sides. And again, I think it all evens out. The one thing that I think the AFL needs to do is to find a way to kind of give WA something. Like
Yeah,
instead
WA
of
South Australia. Yeah.
well, not South Australia because now they have gather round. Okay. So that's why I
Okay. Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
honestly, I've also come up with the ideas. Give the WAA teams at least one, if not two extra home games. Okay. Because they have to travel so much more. Give them in a little incentive to kind of give them an advantage by playing it. So if you have a 24 game schedule, okay, give them 14 home games, 10 road games. Make a few more Victorian teams travel to WA more times during the season because in the long run, it's going to balance everything out because Victorians have the advantage of they get more games at home, less travel. Okay. The Northern have the academies because they have to because they're fighting with
Rugby. Yeah. Yeah.
rugby union
League.
over
Yeah.
kids over talent, which Victoria doesn't have to deal with. Okay, SA gets gather round, so they get an extra home game during the season where they're at home. They don't have to travel. So give WA that, make them play, have them play 14 home games, 10 road games. And I think each team has an advantage in some way. I think it would kind of balance out the thing. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But it's a thought.
Yeah. It's an approach, and the one irony I would probably put to that is it's all well and good giving WA more home games, and then North Melbourne go and sell two of their home games to Western Australia anyway. So, I mean, that's an aside. And it's interesting given
But
those
that's only
schedules.
one.
It's a
That's only
one-off.
one.
Well, that two because they've got the
And
one
they
in
wouldn't
Bunbury and now the one in
and then North wouldn't have to sell
Fremantle.
because they'd already have them.
Have that. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought, and I don't know. There is no way for an equitable fixture when you've got
Absolutely not.
10 Victorian teams, nine
Yep.
Melburnian teams, and then one who have their own ground,
Yep.
which creates its own
Fun.
issues. It's yeah. There's no
Well,
way to
and then they
create
get the
a
disadvantage of having to play home games in the MCG against
in
teams
at the
that
MCG.
that's their home ground.
Exactly.
Again, let Collingwood go play Geelong down in Geelong. Bugger their
Hasn't
fans.
happened since
If you can't
has not happened this century, Donny. It just
and
will not
and
happen.
it's not going to
It's not going
because
to.
the MCC members are going to bitch too much. It's, I look
Yep.
at Eddie McGuire and go, you signed the perfect deal for Collingwood because
Yep.
you get extra tickets at the MCG even when
Yep.
you're the road team. Stop complaining.
I've screamed for years, Donny. I know.
I
It's
know.
so frustrating. And this is the thing. It's like if we're gonna have so many inequities in the fixture au
Balance it
naturel,
out. Just
then
balance it out.
find ways with these buys and things to
Yep.
actually create some equity in the fixture. And
Agree.
that's what they're not doing.
100% agree.
That's what they're
100%
not
agree.
doing.
But the
Yeah.
problem is that the Victorian AFL, and again, I will say, as a WA man, I will say, and maybe it's because I'm an interstate fan. I get really tired of the whining that the Victorians do so much about things. But
Olivia
it's
know they
like,
hear it more than anyone.
well, I think that's the thing that I think you don't understand. Like, their advantages you have. So you complaining about another team getting an advantage is rich. And like, I get, okay, St. Kilda has been the biggest whinger out of all of the clubs. But I agree with what some people said. You go, well, run your club better and you wouldn't have to whinge. Like you're the one spending money on players that aren't panning out. That's on you. That's on your
That's
club.
on
That's
your
on your list
manager. Yeah.
manager. There are other clubs that have signed other players in Victoria that have worked. So that's on you. That's not on the competition. That's not on the Northern Academies. And like again, as I've said, the Northern Academies have one thing that the AFL doesn't have to deal with. NRL taking their talent.
Yeah.
One of Sydney's top 10 academy players from this last year just signed an NRL deal earlier this year at 17.
Yeah.
He wasn't even eligible to be drafted yet. He's already a professional rugby league player because he
Yep.
got signed because
You
NRL
got
can
sidelined.
sign them at 17. That's the argument that so many of these Victorians don't seem to understand.
And if you go to the other states like
Well,
Adelaide,
go home factor
yeah,
too with
yeah,
WA, SA, and Victorian boys.
West Coast and Adelaide players, yeah, that like I'll take West Coast, Port, Adelaide, Fremantle. They're all signing up to a club that they know they're going to be having to travel every second week. They
Yep.
know that, and if they're flying, as you say, if they're coming from Victoria, if they're coming from Queensland, they know that they're dealing with that and not going home.
Yep.
So yeah, it's never going to be balanced, but the things they can control, I
They
would
can
like
throw a
them to
few
balance
marbles on
those.
the other
I
side to
I can like
balance it
them to
out as
just
much as they
balance
can.
those ones out. Yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. So we'll jump to it. We'll jump to the last of the burning questions. Then again, when I get a fan that has a certain team that they love, I like to ask a question. So we kind of discussed it earlier. As you said, you could talk about the doggies all day long. As the doggies man that you are, what are your thoughts on this team after this loss to the Hawks? What's your
Yeah,
thoughts on this team?
yeah. The loss on Thursday, I tipped it. I told everyone that day. I said we were going to lose by 4 goals to Hawthorn. We lost by 4 goals to Hawthorn, but being there and experiencing it did not make it any more enjoyable. I feel like that loss was in the bank. It was Hawthorn's game to win. They had been told by the media that they had to win this game. It was theirs. It was their must-win match. So I can deal with it. But it was just the frustrating nature. And I think we just did not step up. We just did not. We saw what it was going to be, and I heard your comments last week in the podcast, and you said that you said, oh well, they come off the bye rusty, maybe they'll struggle in the first quarter. Will Hawthorn come out? And that's more or less what happened. Is Hawthorn came out, they 22 seconds first goal. Um, the Dogs just did not stand up to it. Rory Lobb was an absolute legend, great with what he did. But I think we can't define the season on that. And I think what
Hmm.
we can define the season on is just the opportunity to beat some proper sides. Our fixtures going into the end of the year, so talk about how unfair the fixture is. We've actually got a really easy run. We've played pretty much at Marvel, I think 9 out of the last 11 or something like that. We play mostly teams that we're not expected to be in the eight. I think Melbourne is probably our biggest side, and Adelaide as well. But it just this is the one we really could have made a statement, and we just refused to make a statement, and
Yeah.
that's what's frustrating. I think getting Sam Darcy back in the next week or two will be a huge difference. Aaron Norton just seems so out of place, so bringing Sam in as a full forward would be a huge difference. I don't know what Luke's thinking about with the back line. Buslinger hasn't had a look in since the GWS game. But yet Gardner got a look in last week and was honestly made to look like a fool. So he's always an enigma, Bevo. But we've re-signed him, and I'm happy that we've re-signed him. I'll say that.
Mhm.
That's controversial, but I'm quite glad he's on board for the next couple of years. But he makes some interesting decisions, and I just want to see some stability, and I want to see the players who have shown what they can do in the ones get another opportunity to do that in the ones. That's probably the big thing for me.
Yep. No, 100% with you. I think I kind of always knew that they were going to re-sign Bevo. It was when interesting that it's just around halfway through the season. So fascinating to see how or what he does as the season goes on. But man, that was frustrating. I really wanted the doggies needed that one to kind of keep the momentum going. So that's a little bit of a stifler, but I agree with you. I think the fixture kind of plays out well to where I think they can kind of get some momentum as the season goes on. But man, they tease just enough to get you
That's
on board and then pull the rug out from underneath you. So,
There's a
all
few
right.
sides like that in the AFL at the moment, but the
I'm
Dogs
not
do
going to
it best.
disagree with you on that. Their Fremantle at the start of the season was that
Yep.
same thing. They tease you, pull the rug, tease you, pull the rug. So I'm a little iffy on Fremantle right now, whether I want to jump on the Dockers bandwagon of they can make finals or not. We'll have to see. So let's jump to the part of the podcast where I kind of take over just a little bit. We'll jump to
Please.
team of the week. We'll start on the defense as per usual. On the fullback line, we have Jarman Impey of the Hawthorn Hawks, the man that has been discussed so much by my co-host Rory Lobb of the Western Bulldogs, and Adam Sod of the Carlton Blues will be the fullback line. On the halfback line, we have Josh Weddle of the Hawthorn Hawks, Connor Rosie of the Port Adelaide Power, and Nick Martin of the Essendon Bombers. Through the midfield on the wings, the ageless wonder that is Steele Sidebottom and North's Jai Simpkin will patrol the wings for this particular team. In the guts, on the ruck, Tom DeConing of the Carlton Blues. Through the center, we have Jai Newcomb of the Hawthorn Hawks, Brisbane's Hugh McCluggage giving him some love, and Chad Warner of the Sydney Swans. On the forward line, at the half forwards, we have James Jordan, the padlock that is James Jordan, on it, 2 goals as a tagger, fantastic for him. Brisbane's Cam Rayner and Adelaide's Ben Keys will be your half forward line. The full forward line, we have Bailey Fritsch of the Melbourne Demons, Geelong's Tyson Stengel, and the man that crushed so many Western Bulldogs hearts, Mabio Chol of the Hawthorn Hawks. On the bench, we have Lawson Humphreys of the Geelong Cats will be my defender. The ruck is the man, the myth, the legend that is Brody Grundy of the Sydney Swans. My center midfielder is Matt Kennedy of the Western Bulldogs, and my forward is the man Keziah Pickett of the Melbourne Demons. So I know that's really quick. Thoughts on team of the week?
No, no, all of that sounded pretty reasonable to me. Yeah, there weren't too many there that I'd argue with. You did come at pace, but uh, yeah, look, there's no one there that I went, excuse me. Yeah,
What?
yeah,
All right, and then we'll jump to the power rankings, which I do. This one was a tough week because fifth place was like, yeah, I really didn't want to put anybody in fifth place. So we'll just go with it. Brisbane Lions are 5. Number 4, the Fremantle Dockers. I know they had the week off, but nobody really passed them because nobody behind them actually won. At 3, the Adelaide Crows. At 2, the Geelong Cats. And at 1, still at the top, the Collingwood
yeah,
Magpies. So
yeah. It's hard to argue with Collingwood after that performance yesterday. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you have to win those games.
definitely, for sure. Let's jump to it. I know we're still early in the week. Let's do our tips. 7 games to tip as we see Collingwood, Gold Coast, Sydney, and Richmond all get to put up their feet on the couch and enjoy the footy this week. So we'll start off Thursday night footy under the lid at Marvel Stadium. See St Kilda take on your beloved Western Bulldogs. Your tip on this: Duggies, Saints. Who do you like?
The doggies have to come back. So we beat them earlier in the year. It was only a few weeks ago, really, just on Easter Sunday. But yeah, no, it should be a good 5 goal win to the dogs, I think.
Liking the doggies in this one. Saints just a little bit too inconsistent. I think this is a good one that the doggies can maybe fill their boots on it. Cal Wilkie may be a little bit of a pain, but I think hopefully if things go well, I think the doggies just a little bit too much. The biggest question is how do they quell Nasiah Wangani Miller? Let's see how they handle that one for sure. So yeah, I have the doggies in this one as well. Fun one, Friday night footy, Hawthorn at Utah Stadium hosting the Adelaide Crows in this one. I like the Crows. I know Hawthorn plays Utah's well, but I like the way Adelaide is playing right now. I know this isn't an easy trip down to Launceston, but I'm going to tip the Crows in this one.
Uh, yeah, it should be illegal to play footy at 7 p.m. on a Friday in June in Tasmania, without a roof stadium. Uh, look, I'm gonna go Hawthorn. Just the way what I saw last Thursday, I feel like they're starting to have a bit of a roll on and just taking Adelaide away from home. Yeah, I feel like they will get the chocolates. Yeah, Utah's
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one.
gonna be a good
I
game.
definitely will thinking about getting up for that one for sure. So all right, fun one up at the Gabba, Brisbane VGWS. Who do you like in this one?
Uh, uh instinct says GWS. Sorry, it says Brisbane. Excuse me. Yeah, instinct says Brisbane. Especially if Toby Green's not playing for GWS.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Brisbane, unfortunately, if Toby Green is out for any significant amount of time, and a team that's been very inconsistent for the last probably month and a half, Brisbane at home on this one. I think they're going to be fired up after dropping that game to Adelaide last week. Down to the MCG, an interesting one. An undermanned Essendon side take on the Cats. I have the Cats in this one. Cats just too good, just too solid. I think Essendon stays with them for 3 quarters, but the fourth quarter it blows out. Jeremy Cameron, I think, goes for 5 in this one.
You've saved my breath, Donny. Exactly what I think. I think that Geelong will just roll them late. They'll step up a gear.
Yep. The fun one, the second of the North sold games to the West as Optus Stadium sees North Melbourne host Fremantle. Fun one here at the West. I'm going to tip the Dockers in this one. As much as it would be fascinating to see North sell the
It
game
would
and
it
get the
would
win,
be
I think
it
Fremantle
would
get the win.
it would be so funny. It would just be enjoyable to see North get the win there. But no, I think the Dockers are up there as
Yep.
well.
The biggest thing is again coming off the bye will be how do they handle the rust versus
Yeah.
rest situation on this one. North,
Well, North, yeah,
yeah,
North
yeah.
played at Bunbury. They've had some hard conditions.
But they've been staying in WA, so they won't have to worry about
Yeah, they
any
haven't left
transition on that
exactly.
one. So I think they'll be okay. But again, that it'd be
3-0.
fascinating. It'd be fascinating if North sell both those games and then go and beat both WA teams. Wouldn't that would be a talking point for sure. I'm
Oh,
fascinated on that
you
one.
would not want to see the West Australian newspaper the day on Sunday morning.
No,
Just let me
that
say
that
that.
yeah.
It's a hard journalism job. I would not want to see that.
All right, we'll jump the Adelaide Oval, a fascinating one here. A couple of teams that both coming off interesting results. Port Adelaide host Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval. I, what are your thoughts on this one? Because this one, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
it's more of a coin toss than I kind of thought it would have been a few weeks ago.
This this when I did the little scroll before, this was the one that I honestly couldn't answer off the top of my head. Look, I think Port in Adelaide should get the win, but Melbourne to me are the team that are coming and coming and coming, and they should have won yesterday had they played that first half the way they really meant to. So they are one of the better sides in the comp, and Port against that they look convincing enough. It's hard to pick. I'm gonna go Port,
I'm going to tip
but
Melbourne in this
with
one.
zero confidence.
I'm going to tip Melbourne in this one because I think the results from last week give me two different things. I think Port comes off confidence with the GWS, but they have to travel home. Melbourne pissed off that they dropped a game to Collingwood, and a pissed off Melbourne team is never a fun team to play, even on the road. Liking the D's plus. If they put Dante Visentini up against Max Gone is going to
That
have a
the
field day in this
I
one,
was
and I
gonna
think
say I
that
did.
could be the changer for me. Is an
That's a
ex
great call. Yeah,
Experienced Max
I had
gone
it.
up against a youngster could be an absolute nightmare. Do we see a Jordan Sweet? Do we see an Ivan Saldo come in just to kind of balance that out? Because if they
Yeah,
throw Dante Visentini to the
Dante
Wolves,
too.
which is
Yeah,
Max gone, it is going to be a long day for that midfield because Max is going to be tapping it anywhere he wants.
but do you count on your Butters and your Rosies to just work to the opposition tap? Like it's an interesting one. That's a great call though, Donny.
Yep. Yep.
The ruck will be a huge battle in that.
Yep. I want to see the
Great
selection. I
pick.
think could change that too. Because like I said, does
Does a
Hinkley
Soldo come
throw
in
does
there?
does a Soldo or a Sweet come in specifically because you have a really good ruck and
Good
Max gone
ruckman.
coming into
Yes.
this one where last week you could play Visentini because he's going up against an inexperienced Madden, so you can kind of let the youngster have a crack with
Yeah.
it with a fellow
Those two
youngster.
rookies. Yeah.
So we'll have to see
No.
does Hinkley play with selection a little bit? We'll have to see. And
That's a
last but not
great
least,
call.
Optus Stadium gets its second game as West Coast take on Carlton. I kid you not. I was about this far from tipping West Coast because Carlton is a team so damn inconsistent. They're going on the road. West Coast has played some pretty good football despite losses. This was the one I almost went, "Ooh, I'm going to tip, but I'm going to tip Carlton. But damn it, this is the one I could see going the other way because West Coast at home play really, really well. A big Victorian side coming across the country could be a setup for an upset.
I'll do it for you then. I think the Eagles could get the win. I really do. I feel like this could be the one. I still remember 2023 when they came over here and beat the Dogs. Sometimes the Eagles just turn it on, even with their
Yep.
limited side. You just get Jimby on a good day. You get their midfield running. Yep, I actually think the Eagles could win that as outsiders. And to be honest, it's more about what you're going to hear on the talk back from Carlton supporters on Monday morning because they do not like games like that.
They do not for sure. I know many a Carlton fan. Like I said, it's always interesting seeing that. And I have a very couple of very good Blues supporters who are very rational thinkers, and I love them to death. But I do kind of mess with them. I go, some of the people in your group are a little bit nutso, and he kind of looked at me and went, Yeah, they
Yeah,
are. So no, I'm like I said, I wasn't brave enough to do that tip, but again, this is a one that if I had like a mandatory upset pick, this would have been it because this is a ripe Carlton team, ripe for an upset. West Coast has been playing some good football, like I said, rough, but they've been playing some better football than they did at the start of the season. This is a
yeah.
perfect
No, this
setup
is
for
one.
that.
Yeah, I'll take that bullet for you, Donny. I think this is one that they really could step up.
Definitely for sure. Well, that is it. That is it, Nick. That is all seven game. That's all seven games tipped. We've went through it again. This is a wonderful conversation. As I kind of joked with this off mic, Nick and I are very similar when it comes to our thought process. I really wanted to do this chat. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with him about East Perth, and he was one of those. I was like, I know he goes to AFL games all the time. I want to see if he hopped on. So, Nick, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. It has been such a great chat chatting footy with you today.
No, no, it's been great. And once again, I just thank you for what you do for selling Aussie rules to the Americans for starters, but to the rest of us as well.
No, I love this sport. It is so much fun. Like I said, it has brought me many a friend, many of them like yourself, who I've never actually met in person. I've only talked with via our social media or on Zoom calls. But you want to know what? I still consider you guys many of my best friends because you
You
guys
just
get me.
know,
We get
yeah,
each other. We
you
really,
just
really
know that
get
when
each
you
other.
eventually come over here, you won't pay for a single beer. That's the main thing.
Definitely. Or I won't have to pay for a single hotel. I think I can couch surf across about two-thirds of the country when it comes to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like what you were listening to when it comes to footy, please like and subscribe and keep track. There will be more footy coverage very, very soon.